to Bitcoin Podcast. The only one that's making your money is you. Listen to the Bitcoin Podcast. So hold on and listen to the Bitcoin Podcast.
What are you doing out in the snow?
Working. To investigate.
It's 32 degrees below 0 Celsius, and my dad is working hard, looking beyond the extents of hypothermia, hypochondria, and all the elements combined. He works to build a fence. A true servant, a true worker, a true exhibit of hard work and ethics. This is my father, in whom I am well pleased.
Welcome back for another Bitcoin podcast interview. Today we had, I'm going to butcher your name, Lixin Liu.
Yes.
All right, how about that? With Keystone, talking about a new concept, well, let's say an older concept, but new implementation of a hardware wallet for both multi-chain and Bitcoin only, depending upon what you want. Why don't you've got quite a bit of a story on how you came to the company Keystone and the history behind the evolution of this hardware wallet. Why don't you go ahead and give our audience an introduction to who you are and kind of the short story of how Keystone came to be what it is.
Okay, cool. First, I want to say thank you for having me, Patty. It's a great honor to be here to share about our story and also the product with your audience. And my name is Lixin. I'm the CEO of Keystone Hardware Wallet. And personally, the first time I know Bitcoin was back in 2009. And I became a Bitcoiner in 2013. Yes, that's our product. Yes, I became a Bitcoiner in Bitcoin 13. And I became a Bitcoiner in 2013. And in 2017, I was incubated by a Bitcoin OG in China to start the company Keystone to make our hardware wallet. And so we started at the end of 2017, and we launched our first generation in 2018. At that time, our first generation was targeting. So at that time, I did a lot of research because we're in China, and we were incubated by the Bitcoin OG in China, and he was very well connected in the miners community in China. So at that time, I interviewed a lot of miners in China to ask them, I think a typical question I ask them is that, what's the most anxious time when you're using a ledger? And their answers were pretty aligned. They told me that the most anxious time was when they plug their ledger into the laptop, because when you're not using it, you can make sure that you're pretty sure that it's an offline device. But when you connect the ledger into a laptop, it means that your ledger is connected to an online environment, which is a much bigger attack surface than just keep it offline. So we came up with the idea that maybe we should make a product which is 100% air-gapped, which means it doesn't connect to your laptop or to your mobile phone. And then we came up with the idea of the QR code. So we think that we should use QR code to transmit the unsigned and the signed information between your software wallet and your hardware wallet, just like between your Ledger Live and the Ledger. So with this idea, another big advantage of QR code was that the compatibility is much better than USB. So I think you guys have suffered from the connection issues between your Ledger and your MetaMask. Yes, it's so terrible. And also QR code is more cross-platform compatible, which means you can use that with your MacBook as well as your mobile phone. So we think at that time, the first idea came into our mind is that QR code is a better solution than USB, no matter from the transparency, security, compatibility, everything. So that's the first idea. But for the first generation, we made a huge mistake, which is we were targeting the miners in China. So for those people, for the miners, I'm not sure you guys are familiar with the Bitcoin miners in China. They work in the most isolated places in China, like Sichuan and the Xinjiang province, to get the cheapest electricity. And they were at the most like extreme environments. So when I was interviewing with them, another big pain point for them is that they want a product which is waterproof and drop resistant to survive in those extreme environments. So that's why we make the first generation with full aluminum body, and also it comes with a very chunky metal box, which means you can put your hardware wallet into that box. And I even drove my car over that box, and the product can survive that. So we make a really like extreme and tough hardware wallet, but the result is that the price was so high, was too high for a normal Bitcoiner. So the price was around $500. That's too much for a normal Bitcoiner. And then we launched our second generation. We took off all the premium features like waterproof, dropper resistant, and we make a much more friendly version, which is around the price from $100 to $200. And also, as I'm a Bitcoiner. So when we launched the product, we were mostly targeting the Bitcoin maxis in the United States as well as in Europe. And we did some really strong features like multi-signature for Bitcoin. Actually, we were doing even better Bitcoin multi-signature scheme than Ledger and the Trezor. So at that time, Code Card and our product were considered as the most robust solution for Bitcoin maxis to set up their Bitcoin multi-sig scheme. So that's how we get into Bitcoin community at that time. And also we launched a lot of features like you can roll your dice to get your recovery fees, because those Bitcoiner maxis, they don't trust our product to generate the entropy as well as the seed phrase for them. So they ask us, can you do can I roll my dice and type in the result of the dice rolling and you give me your seed phrase, this kind of stuff. So we delivered a lot of these kind of features. And also we implemented features like Shamir backup for your recovery phrase, which means you kind of like set up your multi-sig on your recovery phrase. You can do a 3 to 5 multi-sig 3 to 5 Shamir backup, which means you get 5 pieces and you can use only 3 pieces to recover your private keys as well as your address. This means that you can put those 5 pieces in your 5 friends places, and you don't need to worry about one of them to do some bad stuff on your recovery phrase. So you don't need to worry about that. So we did a lot of this kind of very hardcore features for Bitcoin maxis, and they really love our product. And actually, we did that for almost 3 years. In middle 2021, we started to explore our adventure in Web3 community as well as Ethereum. So starting from middle 2021, we launched some features like we integrated ENS. We were the first hardware wallet that can display your ENS address on your hardware wallet. And also we integrated with Sushi Swap so that users can use our product directly with Sushi Swap. And also we integrated with Yen, and also integrated with Gnosis Safe. And here I also want to mention that another big thing we were doing is that we can decode your smart contract transaction, which means you can see all the transaction function calls on your hardware wallet, which is we were trying to fix the security hole of blind signing for Ethereum and Web3 users. So we did some stuff in the middle of 2021. And then around, I don't remember, September or October, MetaMask team came to us. We were kind of surprised that MetaMask team knew us even before we started to explore Web3. So they knew what we have done for Bitcoin community, and they knew we were a very hardcore hardware wallet, and they came to us to say, hey guys, maybe we can do an integration and to bring QR code signing to a bigger community, to a bigger audience in Web3 community through the MetaMask integration. So then we started working on the integration. So around late December, I think maybe in the middle of December of last year, we launched our integration with MetaMask. And also our QR code protocol was totally open source. So some other products, for example, one of our friends who's in Switzerland, he's making a software wallet. He's making a iOS and Android app that can turn your old mobile phone into an air-gapped signer through QR code. So, and also we launched an EIP. We launched the EIP 4527, which is the QR protocol we defined for the communication between your offline hardware wallet and your software wallet. And right now we are working on MetaMask mobile integration. Hopefully we can release that integration at the end of February or early March, which will make our product the very first hardware wallet that integrate with MetaMask mobile. And we're also integrating with other products. And also we're talking to Solana Foundation and Cosmos, Avalanche, to support this kind of non-EVM chains. I mean, for Avalanche, they have EVM and also non-EVM chains. So we are talking to those foundations to support their non-EVM chains and also other software wallets. Here, another big aspect of the product I want to share is that we want to make Keystone. Our positioning is a little bit different from Ledger, because Ledger is kind of making a walled garden right now. So they tend to make people to use Ledger with their Ledger Live, because then they can make more money. Just put it simple, they can make more money. They can make more money on the Ledger Live with the swap function and maybe other on-ramp and off-ramp features. But we are totally different. We're much more Web3. We just want to make a ultimate signer for our users. We want to make our product compatible with as many software wallets as possible, which means an ideal situation in our mind is that, for example, Patty, you want to use some new software wallet, but you're afraid that maybe you put your recovery phrase into that software wallet, it may be compromised. So you can, if we are integrated, you can just use Keystone with that software wallet and to maximize the compatibility with the QR code. So this is something we're trying to achieve. We just want to be a pure ultimate signer for the community. We don't want to build a walled garden like Ledger. So I think this is the ultimate difference between us. I think a fundamental difference on the mindset, also as well as the strategy between our team and also Ledger. Yeah, maybe that's too much information. You can just throw me any questions.
Well, at least our audience has a quality understanding of like where you came from, where you are, where you're going.
Thank you. Yeah. By the way, another thing I want to mention that we not only did the EIP release the EIP, we also joined another BIP, which is BIP 129, which is a BIP for Bitcoin multi-sig. So we also co-drafted the BIP. So our team is pretty, I should say, our team is pretty hardcore, and I'm very, very proud of the team. So, and we're open source. Our product is also open source. We also open source the firmware of the secure element, which is an industry first thing we have done. So yeah, I'm super proud of the team, of the product, and maybe your audience didn't heard us before because we're not a marketing team. I'm the only guy in the team to do marketing actually.
Yeah, I see you everywhere, but no one else.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I go,
yeah.
and I've gone in and looked into the repos for these EIPs and the kind of schematics for both QR and the the Shamir secret sharing across seed phrases, things like that, just to kind of see where they came from, and they're all well done and extensive. So and I've had my experience with the Keystone itself has been great in terms of the responsiveness, the flow of setting it up, things like that. That's all been really strict. I started off with a Ledger Blue a long time ago, which is now
oh really
like it was their touchscreen product, and then basically abandoned, and it's been a nightmare in terms of usability. And I'm happy to like what I'm curious about is do you think you're going to be limited in how fast you can interact with a software wallet through QR codes, like in terms of so the speed, and say you have a large contract interaction, and you can only encode so much information in a single QR code. So what you do for Keystone is you have a series of QR codes to then allow for that much more information across between the software and the Keystone Hardware Wallet.
Yes.
Do you think that's going to limit you in terms of how fast you can get something done?
Okay. Great question. So I think we can, if we talk about speed of the UX, we should take the whole user flow into consideration, which means that USB is faster than QR code for transferring those unsigned and signed information. But we are much quicker because we have fingerprint authentication, which means that you just tap your finger and then you can authorize your transaction. Unlike Ledger, you need to tap those small buttons
it's
10 times. Yeah, it's pretty annoying. And also the screen is very small. So if you need to because if you take the whole process of a signing job into consideration, you need to carefully verify all the information on the screen. And the Ledger the screen is so small. So it's annoying. It's really annoying. But I should say that QR code data transmission is slower than USB. But it also has upside. For example, it's transparency. It's transparent, and it's cross-platform compatible, and also it's verifiable. We also release a open source verifying tool for people to verify all the QR codes. So when making a product, it always comes with you need to trade-offs. You need to.
I've actually the process of trying this thing out. I would scan the QR codes as I was doing a transaction, just to see what information is being passed through.
Yeah,
that's a pretty nice feature of being able to see exactly what information is being passed from one thing to another as you go through the entire steps.
Yeah, that's why
you can't offer that anywhere else. I mean, in some cases you don't want to, just to speed things up. But say for a Grid Plus Lattice 1, it has a large screen. It's detected through Wi-Fi or your local internet.
Yeah,
and it's got a nice touch screen. It's not as responsive as yours because it's different hardware. But you're never going to be able to see that communication interaction between unsigned and signed info.
Yep.
I think that's an interesting concept. I'm curious to see if do you feel like QR codes will become the most used secure way for interacting with wallets in the future?
Yes, of course. Actually, the whole team of Keystone we are QR maximalists. Actually, and that's why we one of the most important slogan of our product is "You sign what you see." We feel that transparency is super important. That's why we make the product open source, and that's why we do the QR code thing. We're trying to make everything as transparent as possible.
Jess, you have anything?
Yep.
What's that noise? Oh, it's a vibration. Got it.
Yeah. I've only ever had experiences with Trezors and Ledgers, so I don't really have anything to say about Keystone. QR codes in terms of scanning transactions. I haven't seen what you've seen, Corey. So, I mean, that seems interesting. So when you're saying that when you sign something, you can see all of the functions, like what does that look like?
Also, like when you, so say for instance, like you've recently integrated with MetaMask.
Yeah.
So you can basically be on a DApp on your browser, and that thing. So you'll do some contract interaction. Maybe you're playing with some DeFi stuff, whatever, and you sign, and then the DApp will craft a transaction for you and submit it to MetaMask. MetaMask will then, set the fees, do all the things MetaMask needs to do to like finalize what the transaction looks like, and then it'll send it, and then it'll start to generate QR codes, which the Keystone here will. Let me open it up here. You can have this little button, your own thing.
Yeah.
Little button here will then scan the QR code that MetaMask will generate, and then it'll start that, and it'll say like, all right, and then that transfers the unsigned transactions to the Keystone wallet here. And what it does is, instead of like showing you a bunch of hex data of this contract interaction, it'll show you function calls and the parameters of those function calls, so you can verify that you can verify the transaction that the DApp crafted and MetaMask altered for fees is what was sent to the hardware wallet. So you know exactly what you're signing from the information on the hardware wallet. So basically, like software sends the unsigned transaction, and for almost all other hardware wallets, it's incredibly difficult or impossible to decipher the information you're actually signing, because it's still all hex data. That's like for all the EVM machines, EVM based blockchains, it's the call data information, which is encoded in hex form. So it's you can't you don't know what it means. So what the hardware wallet does is it takes that hex data and then decodes it back into something you can read from a human form to say like, this is a proven call or some function call in a contract with these parameters as what's being put into that function. So okay, yeah, that's what I want to do. I'll sign that, and then it signs it and then sends it back to MetaMask via another series of QR codes. So
so something that like the miners use, Lixin or Lixin, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, Lixin.
So what kind of like, I guess, what's the start to finish time of like a miner signing a transaction using QR codes versus using, like Trezor, and what you're saying, mashing the little tiny 2 buttons on the Trezor?
I think it's much faster. Because it also depends. For example, if you're using Ledger and sometimes your USB connection were broken, and you need to replug in and tap your pin and open the Ethereum app and try to connect again. So it's hard to say like the ratio between these two schemes, but I should say when you use it, you will never go back to Ledger.
Interesting.
As someone who has fumbled with device drivers on a myriad of operating systems, between the ridiculous number of hardware wallets that I have, like I've spent more time trying to troubleshoot connections to my hardware wallet than I have, like multi times over, than I have actually signing transactions and getting things done. And what's interesting from your perspective, from like a development perspective, you don't have to give a shit about any of that stuff. If you want someone to integrate what you're doing, they just need to make sure that they can send and receive transactions via the QR code protocol that you're standardizing. There's nothing else to it. And so you don't have to develop device drivers across, you don't have to support all these different operating systems. The only thing you have to support is that one protocol. And then all of your development goes into the wallet itself and the software on the wallet. Is that basically where you spend all of your time?
Yes, it's very developer friendly. You just follow the EIP and follow the specs to encode your information, encode your unsigned information into QR code or a series of QR codes. And then decode the information you get from the device. It's very simple.
For software developers, like wallet developers, I'm assuming you have SDKs or kind of like this protocol library in multiple languages. Is that true, or is it just all like where would a developer find how to integrate this into their wallet?
Actually, we are generating a JS library first, and then we'll make it into languages. Right now, the current status is we only have the EIP to define the specs. But for SDK, we will starting with JS first, and then other languages.
Set a bunch of bounties and have other people do it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, great. That's a great idea. Yeah. And also another thing I want to mention is that because we have a big touch screen, right now we are releasing another feature which will show your NFT on your lock screen. So like you can get your NFT into your device, and so you can make it very unique and very identical this hardware wallet for a NFT owner.
Yeah, so how does that work? Because like this thing is completely air gapped. It's not on the internet. The only information that goes in and out of it is when software sends something to it. So, when you look at your wallet, you don't see account balances. You don't see anything like that. You don't see you're relying on something else to either send that information regularly to this, which doesn't happen, or you're using some other software to do that for you. How do you get an NFT on the device?
Let me explain it. So the workflow is like, first you go to our website, and on our website, there's a specific page for you to connect your MetaMask. And then our website can get your address. And then we use OpenSea API to get your NFT under that address. And on the website, you tap the NFT you want to show on your Keystone, and then we turn that JPEG into a series of QR codes, and then use your Keystone to scan that QR code to get the NFT into your device. So this is not an ideal solution, because if you sell that NFT, you can still see that NFT on your Keystone. But we feel it's okay. It's not a security feature. It's just a feature that
it's customization.
Customization. Feel that your Keystone is your Keystone because it shows your NFT.
Interesting. When will that be available?
At the end of this month.
Interesting. So you guys can't you guys don't support video and music, NFTs, right? Because I don't know that the QR data,
you can maybe do a GIF.
No. I have a crazy idea. Someone told us that we should do augmented reality for the NFT stuff.
On your that's quite a bit of
on our device. For example, because we have a camera and we have very strong capacity for calculations and algorithms, we can do when you use our camera to scan your NFT, then you can see an animation or a 3D model on your screen of Keystone. Yeah. So we can do this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, so diving into a little bit more on the so I have a Keystone Pro here. Walk me through the hardware that allows for such a larger amount of computation, because you have a secure element, and then that is then built into something that does more computation that allows for things like potentially maybe some augmented reality later down the line. The secure element isn't doing that. It's basically, if I had to guess, an Android device with a secure element that's air gapped.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And so it gives you a lot of opportunity to upgrade the hardware specification for the software that's running all of this stuff.
Yes, because we feel that for Ledger, their mindset is they turn a traditional banking signing hardware into a hardware wallet. We feel that it's way less. It's not enough for the development of blockchain. For example, for Ledger, they only have 1.8 megabyte storage for Ledger Nano X. So they cannot put enough ABIs into the device to decode the DeFi transactions. But for us, we have a much bigger storage, as well as we support micro SD card, which can be up to 512 gigabytes for you to put those data into the device to use those data to either decode your transaction or do other stuff. So overall, why we choose this solution is that we feel that right now the hardware structure of Ledger doesn't support the development of blockchain. That's why we do it. And I think we can do many cool stuff later with this product, with the hardware structure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you can just like, I mean, all phones have a secure element. So you're able to basically root one and have a blank phone. You can turn it, you can turn it into a Keystone product because everything is open source.
Yes, actually. But the problem is that our open source code also include the code on the secure element.
Yeah.
So if you compile our code and you cannot put that directly on a Android phone,
you're gonna have some problems there.
yeah, you have some problems there. But you can manipulate something and change some of our code and to remove the secure element part. And
some weird person's gonna get into that and do it at some point.
Yeah, maybe. But I should also mention that because we even removed the USB port of the device, so it still has a smaller attack surface compared to a normal old Android phone. And also we have other features like self-destruct mechanism, which means if you like disassemble the device and try to hack the circuit board, something like this, we can detect the disassembling of the device and to erase the private keys.
Yeah, that happens often for I used to work in like critical infrastructure security, and a lot of the devices on networks or SCADA devices or all the little things that have proprietary shells around them are typically like standard hardware. And so the moment you open up the shell of the device, you then are exposed to a myriad of different IO options, serial USB, whatever, that just aren't on the shell. And so what you've done with this is not only removed all of the possibilities of plugging a cable into this thing, but made sure that if someone tried to open this thing, it would erase anything that's secret as well. If the board inside had a way to interact with it that it's not being exposed to other than your SD card.
So how does that actually work? How does it detect that the
it's electronic mesh? It's basically when that mesh is compromised, it then triggers a kill switch.
Yes. Actually, this is very mature in traditional banking equipment. So we're not inventing it. We just copied that technology and that idea from traditional banking equipment.
Yeah. Grid Plus has one. Most secure devices that need to offer a certain level of security will have these tamper-resistant meshes.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Security is
There's a lot of paranoid people out there.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the questions I have. Is there anything else that you would have liked? I mean, Jesse, do you have anything?
I really want to play with one, but yeah, just curious. I don't really have any questions right now. Probably just need to buy one, see what it's like.
Yeah. Maybe I can share a specific coupon code for your audiences.
Ooh, like that.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, well then we'll get that from you after the show and put it in the description of this episode, so that anybody who watches this and wants to try and get one can just use that code to get some type of discount or something.
Yes, of course.
Great. Is there any other questions that you would have liked us to ask you that we didn't?
I think that's pretty much everything. And I also want to mention that if there are any people working for DeFi projects and also working for software wallets in your audiences, you guys can just ping me on Twitter, DM. My Twitter handle is Bitcoin Lixin, Bitcoin Lixin. you can DM me and we can do partnerships. We can put if you are DeFi projects or NFT projects, we can put your APIs into our device, and we can decode the transaction for users and to make people more secure for people's signing. And also after we can show NFT on our device, we can also do partnerships for NFT projects. We can do very cool stuff. And if you are a software wallet, we're totally open to share our knowledge and share our device to you to do integrations with our product. And we're huge lovers for collaboration, integrations. Yeah, just DM me on Twitter. Yeah, I think that's the last thing I want to say.
Yeah, from my experience, you're very responsive on Twitter. I don't think I've ever messaged you and you not messaged me back very quickly.
Yeah, you're like the VIP on my DM list.
Oh, don't go too far. All right, Lixin, it was great chatting with you, and wish you all the luck for the development of Keystone. I'll be using mine quite a bit.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much. Yeah, thank you too.